Hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to session number 177 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. A little study group, all right, helping me to study once again. Okay, so session 177 deals with chapter 22, entitled Salvation and the Holy Relationship. And today we are focusing on section 5, Roman numeral 5. All right, on page 478 in the text, and it is entitled Weakness and Defensiveness. Just a note of reminder as you read this course, as you study it, as you try to apply it in your life, remember that Jesus is never talking about form, which is the body, the world, when he's talking about things like this, weakness and defensiveness. He's talking about content, right? He always refers to form and content. Right? And the content is the mind, the thoughts, the love that is in the mind, or the thought of separation that is in the mind. That's the content. And according to the content, as we progress through this experience of form, we will see the appropriate or the following, the consequential form of the content. All right? If I believe in separation, the content will try to prove that to me. All right? If I have the thought of the oneness and the joining and the never leaving God, right? If I have that awareness of my own innocence and the innocence of others, that's what I will see in form. That's what I will experience in form. All right, that's a much bigger introduction than I had planned, but if you, you know me. Okay, let's begin. Section number 5, Roman numeral 5, Weakness and Defensiveness. How does one overcome illusions? Surely not by force or anger, nor by opposing them in any way, merely by letting reason tell you that they contradict reality. They go against what must be true. The opposition comes from them and not reality. Reality opposes nothing. What merely is needs no defense and offers none. Only illusions need defense because of weakness. And how can it be difficult to walk the way of truth when only weakness interferes? You are the strong one in this seeming conflict, and you need no defense. Everything that needs defense, you do not want. For anything that needs defense will weaken you. All right? And remember, he's not talking about form. All right? You know, there's an exercise in the 365 exercise that says, in my defenselessness, my strength lies. Something to that effect. Jesus is never telling you just to ignore what's going on in form. I mean, if somebody's attacking you or your family, all right, he's not telling you just to ignore that because it's all an illusion. We're not at that stage, all right? I mean, really, as Ken would always say, be normal. There is a way to take care of things and still be coming from the foundation of right-mindedness, right? The foundation of peace, the foundation of forgiveness. There's still ways to deal with form, with that in the mind, okay? But he says, how do you overcome illusions? Let's get back to that. He says, surely not by force or anger, nor by opposing them in any way. Right? Don't know where I heard it, don't remember, because sometimes my memory is like Swiss cheese. Resistance creates persistence. All right? Keep resisting something, that something will persist. All right? I'm also reminded of days when I studied Tai Chi, and the concept was, as the force comes toward you, you are allowing it to go past you, right? You're not resisting it, right? You're moving in a way that the energy goes past you, all right? And then once it's past a certain point, you can use that energy against itself, but that's a different story. But the idea is not resisting, allowing the energy to just avoid the energy. Right? But here Jesus is saying, don't push against it, don't be angry about it. All right? Don't oppose it. All right? Just bring it to the mind and ask for an explanation. How can I see this correctly? All right? So let reason tell you. All right? So how do you overcome the illusion? Merely by letting reason tell you that this illusion contradicts reality. This illusion is not who you are. Right? This illusion has nothing to do with who you really are. Okay? And sometimes it's extremely difficult to get to that point. I mean, in my practice, what I do is I keep applying. You know, it's like taking an aspirin or an over-the-counter painkiller or something. You know, you have a pain in your knee, you take whatever. And then several hours later, the pain is back, you take it again. All right? The same kind of application, it seems, I need with the Course. I take an illusion very seriously. Someone says something to me or whatever, and I take it seriously. I need to be willing, first of all, to just look at it and go to my right mind and ask, how can I see this correctly? What is the truth about this situation? You know, all those things that we use to say the same things. What does peace look like? All this, you know? And then for me, it works, and then the pain comes back. So you gotta take another application. All right. The thing is, you can't overdose on going to the right mind. All right. There's no fatal dosage. All right. It's best to keep going to the right mind. Every time that anger or hurt comes up, and you want to oppose it, you want to respond to it, you want to get rid of it or whatever. The idea is to keep going back to the right mind. All right, that's my experience. All right. Sometimes I have to do it over and over again. Okay. Some people say some hurtful things. All right. And people do hurtful things. All right. And those things can reside in our memories. All right. Even if it didn't just happen yesterday. Seems like it did in the mind. But how do you overcome it? Jesus says, look, it's all an illusion, but that's very unkind to even tell yourself that. Well, it's just an illusion. You know, Jesus is not doing that. He's trying to tell us how to gently realize that it's illusory. Gently realize that it has no effect on who you truly are. And we gently remember who we truly are. All right? So how do you overcome illusions? Surely not by opposing them in any way. Merely by letting reason tell you that they contradict reality. They go against what must be true. All right? So they go against whatever they said or did. It goes against what must be true. You are a thought in the mind of God. You are complete and unending innocence. That's what's true. So the opposition comes from them, not reality. Right? Reality opposes nothing. Right? Reality just is. Doesn't oppose anything, doesn't need to. There's nothing to oppose in reality. Right? What merely is needs no defense and offers none. Only illusions need defense because of weakness. All right? So only this illusory self-image that I have, this illusory picture of myself, needs defense. Right? And so when you say or do something hurtful, oh, what are you getting defensive about? That's what, that's what happens. I'm in it. I'm in the illusion. And if I want to feel better, at this point I know enough that if I want to feel better, I go to the right mind. I go to reason. And I ask, just show me the truth. Help me to see this correctly. What I'm doing is responding to that illusory image of myself. Okay? And what needs... only illusions need defense because of weakness. The moment I believe I am separated from the mind of God, I feel weak. I feel vulnerable. Something is going to destroy me, right, because of what I did. And that's on a very deep metaphysical level, right? But it's reflected in this world of form, right? Everyone has certain levels of anxiety, all right? And that's where it comes from, because I'm living in this illusion and I feel weak. I just think I'm weak in some way. In some way, even the most powerful people in the world, right? Somewhere along the line, they have a weakness, all right? That story of Achilles is it's just very cool. Everybody has their Achilles heel somewhere. So only illusions need defense because of weakness. And how could it be difficult to walk the way of truth when only weakness interferes? Right, so Jesus is saying, well, how difficult could it be to walk the way of truth? Well, Jesus, you know it's pretty difficult. All right, but he's just giving us this pep talk. All right, how difficult could it be to walk in the light of truth? To walk the path of truth when the only thing that's interfering is an illusion. It's a hallucination, a dream. He says, so how difficult could it be? All right, well, let me tell you. But we know experientially that, and Jesus knows too, right, that this is a process. Right? Some days you're good at it and some days you're not. Some days you hit the target, some days you don't. Right? But the days you hit the target, your awareness of who you truly are is getting stronger. And your ability to bring the light to the world is getting stronger. Okay? And he says, you are the strong one. Right? You are the strong one in this seeming conflict. And you need no defense. Everything that needs defense, you do not want. For anything that needs defense will weaken you. Remember, he's talking about content, the mind. He's not talking about form, the body and the world. Right? You need no defense. Right? In reality, your mind needs no defense. Right? Otherwise, if you needed absolutely no defense, what do you know? You're not going to wear shoes, right? You're not going to wear a raincoat. As Ken would say, be normal. Be normal. Jesus is talking to the mind, the decision-making part of the mind. Right? He says, in actuality, you don't need any defense because you are a thought of eternal innocence in the mind of God. There is only the oneness. There is no other that would need to be judged and defended against. There is only the oneness. Right? So you need no defense in actuality. He says everything that needs defense you do not want. Oh, he's really talking about the ego thought system in the world. Right? He says you really don't want this. Right? But we're going to relinquish it little by little. Okay? You're not going to jump off the edge of the earth for you flat earthers. All right? We're not going to jump off the edge. All right? We're going to be here to learn. We're here to learn that this is an illusion. We're here to become, as it were, lucid dreamers, so that we can, in the middle of the dream, go, oh, yes, this is a dream. I'm not really lost. I'm not really disoriented. All those things. Okay? He says, everything that needs defense you do not want, which is like the entire world. Okay? The entire ego thought system. For anything that needs defense will weaken you. All right? Anything encompassed in the ego's thought system, right, which is based on the thought of separation, he said anything in that thought system is going to weaken you. It's going to take away from who you really are. That's how it weakens you. All right? Because you forgot who you really are. Okay, paragraph 2. Consider what the ego wants defenses for. Always to justify what goes against the truth, flies in the face of reason, and makes no sense. Can this be justified? What can this be except an invitation to insanity, to save you from the truth? And what would you be saved from but what you fear? Belief in sin needs great defense and at enormous cost. All that the Holy Spirit offers must be defended against and sacrificed. For sin is carved into a block out of your peace and laid between you and its return. All right? So this idea of separation, the idea that you did something wrong, it's carved into a block and it's carved out of your peace, carved out of your peace of mind, and it's put between you and the return of your awareness of peace. So he says, consider what the ego wants defenses for. Right? So the ego wants defense to justify what goes against the truth and flies in the face of reason and makes no sense. So the ego wants the defenses, right, to justify the idea that I am separated from the mind of God. All right, that's what the ego needs defenses for, so that I never go back there to that realization in the mind, so that I never go back to my mind and ask, there must be a better way. I want to see correctly. All right, my nose is itchy. I don't know why. So he says, the ego needs defense always to go against truth. All right, can this be justified? What can this be except an invitation to insanity? All right. As Groucho Marx would say, hey, I resemble that remark. But the ego, the thought of separation, is an invitation to insanity. All right. Can we not look around us in the current world and see the manifestation of insanity, the manifestation of the ego thought system? I only have what I have taken. That's going to be the first, one of the first laws of chaos. The first law of chaos is going to be the truth is different for everyone. And you can see that working in the world today. But we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But he says it's just an invitation to insanity. And it's designed to save you from the truth. All right? The whole world, the body, other bodies, everything around us is designed not by something not by a devil or something. It's the ego. The ego is the thought of separation in our mind. Right? We agreed to believe we were separated, and then we just said, oh, now I have to get out of here. Now I'm weak. Now God is going to destroy me. And I used the power of my mind to create this whole universe. So I go about blaming other things. You know, the equivalent in this Adam and Eve story of hiding among the trees. All right? So you got billions and billions and billions of trees out there. Otherwise known as planets and people. All right? So it's all designed to save you from the truth. And where's the truth? It's in your mind. It's in your mind. When you go back to your mind and say, show me the truth. Show me the truth. We can break through this illusion. We can break through it. Okay. And what would you be saved from but what you fear? So it says, oh, this stuff in the world is in order to save you from the truth. And he says, and what would you be saved from except what you fear? And practice not denying it, because, you know, it's good to realize, oh yeah, I'm afraid of the truth of who I am. I'm afraid of the truth of who I am because I think that knowledge is going to obliterate me. It's going to take everything that I love. It's going to take me away from everything. It's going to leave me, as Ken would say, a nebbish. All right? So that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of love. I'm afraid of the truth of who I am. All right? So he says, belief in sin needs great defense. So that belief in separation needs a lot of defenses. needs a lot of proof, right? And it needs to defend against my going back to the mind. So he says belief in sin needs great defense and at enormous cost. So what is that enormous cost? The enormous cost is the awareness of who you truly are. The awareness of your relationship with your Creator, which is only love, which is only a loving relationship, which is only blissful. It's happy and secure. That's the cost. That's what we're missing out on, right? By delaying our awareness of that. And that's what we're doing, is delaying it. You haven't lost it, you just forgot where it was. All that the Holy Spirit offers must be defended against and sacrificed. That's what the ego says. For sin is carved into a block out of your peace and laid between you and its return. Sin is carved into a block out of your peace. So we see this thought of separation as this great block, something that can't. And Jesus used the idea of a wall. I think it was last week. He says, "Look, if you realize it's only like a sheer fabric, you can actually put your finger through it." All right. Paragraph 3. Yet how can peace be so fragmented? It is still whole, and nothing has been taken from it. See how the means and the material of evil dreams are nothing. In truth, you and your brother stand together, with nothing in between. God holds your hands, and what can separate whom he has joined as one with him? It is your Father whom you would defend against. Yet it remains impossible to keep love out. God rests with you in quiet, undefended, and wholly undefending. For in this quiet state alone is strength and power. Here can no weakness enter, for here is no attack, and therefore no illusions. Love rests in certainty. Only uncertainty can be defensive, and all uncertainty is doubt about yourself. All right? There's always this just pristine, perfect logic in the Course. Ultimately, all uncertainty is doubt about yourself. Right? And Jesus tells me, and I'm reading it, and we're reading it together, that you are the Son of God. You are the Christ. Bing, there goes the doubt. No, there's that little switch there, or whatever it is, that goes off and says, what? That's crazy. That's doubt about yourself. So all of a sudden there's uncertainty. So the ego is seeped back in. Even after that moment of hearing Jesus tell you that you're my brother, I and the Father are one, you are just like me, all those things. There is only the oneness. And you are that. You are the offspring of God. And very soon thereafter, there's uncertainty about who I am. And it's this uncertainty that needs defense. This uncertainty is defensive. Yet how can peace be so fragmented? In paragraph 3, he said. It is still whole, and nothing has been taken from it. See how the means and the material of evil dreams are nothing. In truth, you and your brother stand together with nothing in between. He says, God holds your hands, right? And what can separate whom he has joined as one with him? Right? He says, what can separate that? Now, for hundreds of years, their religion has used that, what God has joined, let no man put asunder. They use that as a very cruel rule to disallow divorces. I mean, you would have to stay with an insane spouse. Right? You'd have to stay with someone who's very cruel, to say the least. You can't, or you get purged from the church. Right? It's very cruel. I witnessed it. I witnessed the cruelty of it. Right? It wreaked havoc on someone I know, because they were not, now they're not allowed to receive the sacraments anymore. They were very devout Catholics. Right? And they're told. And yet, if the person remained married, it was horrible. Just horrible. Right? So Jesus here, every now and then he likes to do that. He not changes, but corrects the meaning. He says, God is holding your hands, and what could separate what God has joined? Right? What could separate that? Nothing, except an illusion. Right? So in actuality, he says it's your Father. It's God that you would defend against. You're afraid of God. You're afraid of love. You're afraid of who you really are. All the same thing. Right? Except you didn't create yourself. Right? So you're afraid. We're afraid of God. And once again, as a reference, the Adam and Eve story, they quickly became afraid of God. Right? And in the Bible, that God is very afraidable. There's good reason to be afraid of that God. All right? Always going around smiting and smoting and turning people to salt. All right? I like to, at this point in time, avoid salt. So it's your Father whom you defend against. Yet it remains impossible to keep love out. Think about that. In your darkest moments, it is impossible to keep love out of your mind. It's always there. God rests with you in quiet. God is always in your mind, resting with you in quiet. It's impossible to keep him out. He's just there. He's always been in, never been out. Doesn't need to get back in. He's always been there, and so has love. Okay? And God rests with you, undefended. All right? Doesn't need any defense. For in this quiet state alone is strength and power. In one place in the book, Jesus beautifully refers to this as the stately calm within. We can touch it within an instant. Touch that stately calm within. Let love arise and let it apply itself to whatever the situation is. Okay? So love rests in certainty. And he says, then only uncertainty can be defensive. So all uncertainty is doubt about yourself. All right? And Jesus says, once we doubt who we are, he says, you roam this world uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. And that about describes life, if we're honest about it, all right? But don't let it bring you down, okay? It's only castles burning, all right? You find that yearning in your mind for the love of God, the connection of God, and ask that, help me to see correctly. Paragraph 4, how weak is fear, how little and how meaningless, how insignificant before the great strength of those whom love has joined. This is your enemy, a frightened mouse that would attack the universe? How likely is it that it will succeed? Can it be difficult to disregard its feeble squeaks that tell it of its omnipotence, and would drown out the hymn of praise to its creator, that every heart throughout the universe forever sings as one? Which is stronger? Is it the tiny mouse, or everything that God created? You and your brother are not joined together by this mouse, but by the will of God. And can a mouse betray whom God has joined? You remember that? I don't know if you're not old enough to remember the Peter Sellers movie, The Mouse That Roared. Right? It's about a little country that declares war on some giant country. All right. But he says, this is your enemy. All right? How weak is fear? He says, fear is the enemy. And he says, and it's little and it's meaningless. Right? How insignificant. It's all insignificant before the quiet strength of those whom love has joined. Right? And if you're experiencing an enormous fear, right, this is not to take away any of your feelings or anything. This is Jesus trying to remind you that you can tap into your mind, right? And start letting the air out of that balloon of fear. It's only a mouse he's talking about. He says it's only like a little mouse. Right? And once you tap into the right mind, into reason, and you ask for the help. If you need help in form, what I call the loud idea, it would be, all of a sudden you get, or my grandmother used to call it the bright idea. you get a bright idea. Oh, this is what I can do. And whatever has to be done, you can do it in the foundation of peace. It can all be done in the foundation of peace. All right? So he says, this is your enemy, that frightened mouse that would attack the universe. All right? So he says, can it be difficult to disregard its feeble squeaks? All right? And he says, these feeble squeaks that scream about how powerful it is. And these feeble squeaks would drown out the hymn of praise to its creator, that every heart throughout the universe forever sings as one. So he says, which is stronger? The tiny mouse or everything that God created? And everything that God created, we're not talking about form, remember. We're talking about the mind, right? Everything that God created, the bliss, the security, the oneness, right? There is no other to oppose, right? There's only the oneness. This is going to oppose the oneness? Okay. This is, can a mouse betray what God has joined? This is, you and your brother are not joined by this mouse, believe me. Paragraph 5. If you but recognize how little stands between you and your awareness of your union with your brother, be not deceived by the illusions, its presence of size and thickness and weight and solidarity and firmness of foundation. Right? Be not deceived by the illusions it presents. Right? Of size and thickness, weight and solidarity and firmness of foundation. Yes, to the body's eyes, it looks like an enormous solid body, immovable as is a mountain. Yet within you is a force, with a capital F now, is a force that no illusions can resist. This body only seems to be immovable. This force is irresistible in truth. Right? What then must happen when they come together? Can the illusion of immovability be long defended from what is quietly passed through and gone beyond? All right? There used to be that. My father used to, when I was young, he used to like to give me these like Zen thing, koans, you know. And one of those things was what happens when the immovable object meets the irresistible force. This is what happens then. And I would sit there, I don't know. Well, Jesus is using that idea, right? He says, don't be deceived by the illusions, right, of this fear, whatever this fear is, right? Be not deceived by the illusions of size and thickness and weight and firmness of foundation. Right? He says, yeah, to the body's eyes, it looks like an enormous solid body. It looks immovable. It looks immovable as is a mountain. But he says, but within you is a force. Right? Remember, this is written way before Star Wars. There is a force in you that no illusions can resist. The body only seems to be immovable. And in truth, the force is irresistible. So what must happen when they come together? All right? The force that's in you is able to just pass right through that whatever we think is this enormous, immovable thing, right? That force that is in you, that awareness of love and innocence and strength and bliss, the awareness of your connection to God is that force that is in you. And there is nothing that it cannot pass through, because everything is just that ethereal illusion. All right? So what must happen when they come together? Can the illusion of immovability be long defended from what has quietly passed through and gone beyond? Right? He says it goes through it because of what is in your mind, what you are aware of is your attachment to your Creator, to the oneness, to the love that passes all understanding. that wipes out all the illusions. Paragraph 6, forget not, when you feel the need arise, to be defensive about anything. Okay? You have identified yourself with an illusion. And therefore, you feel that you are weak because you are alone. This is the cost of all illusions. No one but rests on the belief, not one, but rests on the belief that you are separate. Not one that does not seem to stand, heavy and solid and immovable, between you and your brother. And not one that truth cannot pass over lightly and so easily that you must be convinced, in spite of what you thought it was, that it is nothing. If you forgive your brother, this must happen. All right? If you forgive your brother, this must happen. For it is your unwillingness to overlook what seems to stand between you and your brother that makes it look impenetrable and defends the illusion of its immovability. All right? So whatever it is, whatever the reason is that I think that I really, I can't forgive that. I can't forgive that person. That's how we think that this is impenetrable. Whatever it is, it's impenetrable and it's immovable. All right? He says it is just your unwillingness. It's your unwillingness to overlook. That doesn't mean to ignore it. It means actually the process is good. Help me to see it correctly. Help me to see it correctly so I can look past it. I can look past it to the truth. All right? And once again, it doesn't mean that you stay and get hurt. It's not that. All right? You can do whatever is necessary in the foundation of reason, with the foundation of reason. You can act out in form as long as you're connected to that reasonable part of your mind. Help me to see correctly. All right? Because we know that there are some god-awful people out there that do some horrible things to people. And given a chance, they'll continue to do that. Jesus is saying, if you forgive your brother, right, you will be able to pass over this, right, no matter how immovable it looks. And remember that thought of that process of forgiveness that we talk about in the Course. It's first I just need to stop projecting guilt onto that giant, immovable, horrible person. Stop projecting the guilt, right? And just be willing to see the truth. Be willing to see the truth about that person, right? Or the activity or whatever is happening. Be willing to see the truth, right? And he says, and not one. And he says, it's just nothing that truth cannot pass over lightly. And he says, and if you forgive your brother, this must happen. It will happen, he's telling you. If you truly have the willingness to see correctly, right? I want to stop blaming. I'm just willing to see correctly. And in that frame of mind, when you're doing that, you are visiting that quiet spot in your mind. And that's where all the answers are. That's where all the answers are. Because there's one answer that fits all the illusions. It will come, and the answer to your specific problem will come to you in a way that you understand. Right? You will understand. As Jesus says, it comes in a language that you can understand. And you will understand that where it came from also, which will reinforce your readiness to go back to the right mind and ask for reason to give you clarity. Help me to see correctly. I want to see the truth. And you will become aware of the truth of yourself also. Okay? I thought this was going to be a short one, but you know me. All righty then. It's a very beautiful section, right? As most of them are, all of them are, except for the ones that are pointing out the ego's machinations. All right, until next time. All right, let us live in peace. Let us dedicate ourselves to seeing the world through the eyes of peace.